Can't hear anything. I don't see my face up on this.
I see mine.
Tom? Can you hear me?
You just said it, Tom.
Say yes. I'm trying to stop this.
Yes.
This is Bonnie. I can't hear anything either.
Anyone that might be familiar with the tax credit program recognizes that the state kind of had to put a pause until they could kind of decide.
Can you hear
what
me,
the
Bonnie?
application criteria was going to be. And so that put a lot of projects on hold for many housing authorities and then any other private developers. And so in an effort to continue on our mission of redeveloping these properties, when it came to looking for a development partner for the redevelopment of Cooper River Court and Meeting Street Manor, a developer without a reliance on tax credits was a large incentive because we didn't have the time to wait to be able to let that program unfold and kind of figure that out. Integral came to us with a proposal of about 1,100 units across the various parcels that we have that make up Cooper River Court and Meeting Street Manor. Jordan will go into some more detail, but just kind of high level there. The property, the 1,100 units would be split, about half of that being affordable attainable units. So they would come back with the same AMI percentage as the 286 that were going to be removed. Then there was going to be an AMI percentage a little higher than that to kind of capture that missing middle. And then there was going to be a portion of the property that was going to have market rate units. The market rate units, as Jordan will explain in the model, go a long way in aiding those affordable units and making sure that they're able to stay affordable. So that was the process that we went through in selecting a partner. Like once we received the proposals, we interviewed all of them, asked the appropriate questions, and the integral proposal, not only for the unit count, but also the financing structure, was the one that was most advantageous in order to get this project done. And so if there are no questions about the process of selecting them, then I'll turn it over to Jordan Jones to actually go through the proposal.
Say, we've done that kind of due diligence in selecting the development partner anyway, but it's also a requirement of our relationship with HUD that we follow strict procurement regulations that
Oh,
are
yes. So
not.
the procurement policy followed is the one that is set in place for the housing authority, integrating in HUD regulations and state procurement policies. So that's how the request for proposals got to be placed out there. But also to Ms. Jackson's point, the process by which to redevelop these properties through HUD requires multiple calls with them, identifying what the financing structure is going to look like, how we're going to deal with resident relocation, if any. So the process to follow for HUD in order to do a demolition, disposition, and rebuild requires us to kind of check off those boxes to make sure that the plan is covered from start to finish.
Are y'all going to be going in a little more into the details about the relocation process and display, whether there'll be displacement and whether the same folks who live in the units now are going to be brought back or given a pathway to come back?
I can address that before we start with the presentation. And our first look at relocation was just that, to get vouchers and allow the residents to find someplace to stay, and then assure them once we got to a point where they were ready to move back, they could move back into those units. Or they could take the voucher and stay wherever they were, and we would use other units. But as we've been talking to the integral group as they got there, we've looked at the idea of building first and how that was going to be would relieve everybody's tension and put us in a situation where we could just, before we tear down anything down, build another building of about 300 units and then move the people to that building, because it gives you the strength of being able to see the building being built. We've been looking for a spot very close to that area, and we may have a chance with a couple of them, but we're going to still continue pushing that to find 300 or so units that we can just move everyone there. The property is 276 units, so 286, I'm sorry. So we would still have the ability to put everybody there and then add some others too. Yes, sir.
Curious what the vacancy rate, I mean, are all of those units currently occupied?
I can
And
answer that.
yeah.
The units are not all occupied. We do have some natural turnover, as you would anywhere, and recognizing what we have kind of upcoming in places where it makes sense not to put someone back, we don't. But in as much as we can kind of stick to the build first model, if that works out, then we'll try to keep the property reasonably occupied and then move those folks. But
I just want to say that's great, that y'all are considering that option. And I know that for the folks down there, for the kids, and for the folks who live there now, being around their community, not to be completely uprooted and put into a whole different neighborhood is great. I mean, that would be my biggest concern. I'm sure their biggest concern too.
And just to reiterate, I had worked the census in that area, and it seemed like that might be a way you could do things just from what I perceive.
Did we lose our sound? Because I could hear everything earlier, but not at first.
It looks like we lost the council chambers entirely. There's no video or audio for me.
Same here. I couldn't hear from the beginning. Then I picked up for a while and now it's
Yeah.
off.
Same, but Jasmine's on here with us, so she's probably working on it. I wish there was a chat function so you could say, hey, I can't hear anything.
And that's what I was about to do. And then I looked and I said, oh my God, there's no chat.
Yeah. I'll raise my hand. And not that that's going to help. Maybe Jasmine will see it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks, Bonnie.
Oh, it's going to lower my hand if I don't start talking.
Father earned $1,000 a year. He did not know he was poor till he came here to the States when he had an incredible opportunity for private boarding school starting in his junior year, when he realized, oh shoot, I am actually poor. But he realized the impacts that he had growing up poor were different than the impacts other of those households had here in the States, because he grew up in a village. He grew up in a mixed income community where no one knew that he was poor. He did not know he was poor, and therefore that did not change his viewpoint of life moving forward. And so as Egbert and the firm were thinking about what to do with this first ever public housing project, Egbert and our principal's thoughts were, we have to demolish it. We have to start from scratch. We have to think differently about how we provide affordable housing here in the country. So Egbert and our team created the legal, regulatory, and financial structures to do mixed income housing in the United States. And so whenever we're ready, go to the next slide. This was, again, the first redevelopment of public housing into a mixed income community.
So are we able to do the slide presentation? Where are we? Can we get the slides? I see the commissioners and our guests on the screen. So I apologize for oh, there we go. There we go. All right.
So Techwood Homes, the next slide, please. So we, again, won the opportunity. We changed the legal, regulatory, and financial structures, do mixed income housing. Egbert likes to talk about, even in the first phase here, he had to go to the state and to National HUD to get a waiver to install air conditioning in a unit in downtown Atlanta. Why? Because you would install air conditioning in affordable housing until Egbert Integral started to get involved in the quality of housing that all households deserve. So we, again, first project, we redeveloped this over 4 phases, 730-ish for-rent apartments, and there are several for-sale condos in there as well, called Centennial Place.
Next slide.
Yes. Yes, please. There it is.
There we go.
So located in downtown Atlanta, again, Centennial Place. This on the table on the right shows a level of affordability, showing that is a true mixed income community. For us, a mixed income community is different than how most developers view, thank you, sir, mixed income communities, particularly within the low-income housing tax credit space. Mixed income housing is really, you still have 100% of your units at or below 80% AMI. In our opinion, that's still concentration of poverty. How do you actually integrate unrestricted units into the market is, in our opinion, what is critical to do. So again, we have 737 for-rent apartments similar to the ones shown on the left, built in the 1990s. If you go visit there today, they look spectacular. We had Roddy and Kenya over there sometime in 2024. So here you have public housing residents living next door to Georgia Tech students, living next door to executives at Coca-Cola World headquarters, or working in downtown Atlanta, right? So how we do mixed income communities, we don't have a building or a floor that is for residents of the Atlanta Housing Authority, and a floor for students and a floor for unrestricted households. We design and construct every single unit to look exactly the same. All the finishes are exactly the same. So you don't know if your neighbor living next to you has a significant amount of subsidy coming from the authority or if they're paying full rent, right? That starts to change the perception of these households. Next slide, please. Oh, apologies. Thank you. There we go. This is another example. This one is currently under construction, as the slide shows. This is our Ashley Scholars Landing. If you know Atlanta well, this is located in the Atlanta University Center area. So this is where Morehouse, Spelman, The other HBCUs are located in Atlanta. Similarly, this one, we have about 40% of the units are at or below 60% AMI. In this development, we actually have some workforce units, what we call attainable housing units. So we have about 20-ish% between 60 to 100% AMI. And then we also have 30-ish% that are unrestricted units. So again, just wanted to provide a little bit of background and context to who we are as a company and how we look to approach these types of developments, such as the one that's on the screen here, being Cooper River Courts and Meeting Street Manor. As Mr. Milligan shared, this development was built in 1935. So when we actually include additional units, my unit count is closer to 320 units. What Mr. Milligan did not share is that these units are actually relatively special to me. Surprisingly and shockingly, my family actually built these units back in 1935. My family's construction company was hired by the city of Charleston to actually build these communities back in 1935. So thankfully, they're still built very solid. But of course, the interior finishes could have a little bit of a change to it. So we are looking to redevelop the entire site. We are looking to demolish all the units. We are looking to build back around 1,100 units. 30% of the units would be at or below 60% AMI. Those units would be receiving project-based vouchers from the Housing Authority of the City of Charleston. Therefore, I don't know exactly what those AMI levels will be of those households, but it'll likely be more deeply affordable than 60% AMI, likely closer to 30, 40, or 50% AMI. We're also looking to provide attainable housing units, thinking about the city's essential workforce and as well as hospitality workers, so around 60 to 120% AMI, and then we'll have about 50% of the units being unrestricted. We are not going to be demolishing all the units at once. To the question earlier around relocation and displacement of the households, we are looking to do a phased redevelopment. To what Mr. Milligan shared earlier in Eris is our goal is actually to do a build first strategy. We're in conversations with key stakeholders around the property of acquiring additional site control, additional parcel that is vacant land today, or maybe has less number of units on it, where we could build the first building. We would then take where we're going to build phase 2 on site, say maybe there's 40 public housing units there today. We take those 40 households, move them across the street into a new mixed income community, and then build a new building on the site itself. Again, goal is here to do it in phases and minimize, if not at all, eliminate any potential for displacement. As I shared earlier as well, our goal here is we're not going to have a building for affordable housing households, a building for attainable. We'll have these variety of households across every phase and every building on every floor. Now, who are we actually doing this for? Well, clearly, the primary objective here is to serve the residents of the Housing Authority of the City of Charleston. Our commitment to them the day one when we were selected for this and executed our master development agreement with the Housing Authority a little over 12 months ago was we would be with the residents every 90 days. And we're meeting with the residents every 90 days. We just had 2 more additional sessions with them on April 24th. Your commissioner, Carol Jackson, attended those. We also had Mr. David Slade from the Post and Courier. So these are meetings we have very regularly every 90 days or so with the residents. Our goal here is we are recognizing we are rebuilding their community. This is not my community, this is their community. In order for us to do that, we need their input. So we've been getting a lot of their feedback in terms of sticky notes, a lot of feedback in terms of red and green dots, putting different thoughts in front of them in terms of floor plans, in terms of exterior design of the buildings, in terms of what community amenities they'd like to have, what type of retail would they like to have in the community. And with our work, our experience, partners with the Housing Authority and conversations with the residents, these are the key goals we have identified and we've adopted for the project. The first one, the most important one, as we all know, is implement that build first strategy. We recognize the stress on households with displacement. We've been doing this work for 30 years. We've done it successfully with build first strategies. We recognize this is a best practice that we as a company have developed and as a strategy we're very focused on delivering here for this community. Our second goal is to increase the number of affordable units by 25%. So we're going to be replacing like-kind units on the site. For example, today there are 24 bedroom units on the site and 4 5-bedroom units on the site. We'll replace those 4 and 5 bedroom units on the site unit for unit, and then we'll increase that by 25%. So when we're all done, there will be 25 4-bedroom units on the site. and 5 or 6 5-bedroom units on the site, right? When was the last time a 4 or 5-bedroom unit was developed in the peninsula? I don't know. You all might know that information, but again, this is a focus of ours because going back to displacement, these are active households that are living in the community today. They need to move back. Plus, there's additional need for these housing types within the community itself. We're also looking to provide a diversity of other housing options. So we're not looking at just, some taller buildings on Morrison. We're also looking at some smaller buildings. We love the development the Housing Authority was involved with called Williams Terrace. Catfiddle Street development is also another great urban infill development here with great little avenues, courtyards that we're looking at as an inspiration. We've also been having some brief conversations with the Housing Authority and Gianna Shaw Johnson of, is there a possibility to do some for sale units in the development? It doesn't have to be all for rent. So that's something else we are having conversations about. Delivering shared prosperity. We are a 100% Black-owned real estate development company, and shared prosperity is always important for us, from having strong participation on the construction side and strong participation on the ongoing operations of the asset as well. We also recognize the challenges associated with flooding that are there today, and with the rivers rising and with the peninsula sinking, we have to be thinking about resiliency long term. As I think about this is something my great-great-grandfather was proud to construct 90 years ago, and I want to make sure that my family's involvement continues to provide these units even longer term for Charleston. And the last goal here is provide community amenities paired with neighborhood necessities. This is particularly where we've been receiving a lot of feedback from the residents. The residents shared with us needs around early childhood education, needs around job training, needs about how do they access additional service providers here in the community. Kenya and Radia have introduced me to Trident United Way. They're in the process with their ALICE program of creating kind of one-stop shop, so to speak, where the United Way essentially provides a space or the opportunities for service providers to go to the space to essentially have office hours to help potential residents. So we're in conversations with Trident United Way as a way for them to have space within the development itself.
I see a question.
Please.
Does that include a grocery store with fresh food options? There isn't a grocery store within walking distance of that area, as far as I know.
You are correct. This property is located within a food desert. Our initial response to the Housing Authority, we did propose a full service grocery store, about 35 to 40,000 square feet. So similar size to Publix. I'm not stating it will be a Publix, but for perspective, it would be a full size grocery store with produce, maybe a pharmacy, butcher, etc. So that is our goal. Is that something we can live up to? That's a key challenge. We've been trying to figure out how to put housing on top of a grocery store, right? As we've seen at West Edge, it can be very expensive to do. The more expensive it is, the less affordability we can do. So right, so it's a goal we have. I am hoping to hit that, but I cannot guarantee that today. It is on our radar. And then my last slide is, again, most of the first few slides are actually about the real estate piece, but a key piece for us is actually the people. Our biggest lesson learned from the first community we highlighted called Centennial Place was that just because you have the real estate right doesn't necessarily mean the residents will be successful when they move back in. We evicted way more of the initial public housing residents of Techwood Homes when they moved back to Centennial Place than we ever anticipated we would, nor that we ever thought we would do. We failed to prepare those residents to move in to a mixed income community, right? Many of these residents grew up in generational public housing and generational poverty. So how they think about approaching the units, how they live in a mixed income community, we as an organization have to do better with that. On the right-hand side, we recently hired Miss Jessica Washington. So yes, we're a for-profit development company, but we have a director of sociology on our staff. Her goal here is help us thinking about how do we curate a mixed income community? How do we make sure that Housing Authority residents, when they look to return to the site, are successful when they move into this community? We also stood up our own nonprofit called the Ascent Project, or TAP. We provide them a significant amount of our gross revenue to support this nonprofit because they provide those people services to many of our residents. In fact, the Ascent Project has a lot of staff at many of our communities. That staff position is called a Community Engagement Coordinator, where their role is to work with property management and to work with the residents themselves of saying, hey, how can I help you be successful? How can I help you find a local service provider to help you get your GED, to do your job training? Are your children enrolled in early childhood education? Do you have health insurance, right? Helping them meet the residents where they are today So that way, not only do they have an incredible place, incredible community to move into, but we have to make sure they're successful when they come into the community. And so that's the role of the Ascent Project, or TAP. And a lot of this is being overseen by Miss Jessica Washington. And so with that, I'll stop and would love to see if there are any questions.
Commissioners?
Thank you for that presentation, and I'm sorry I missed the beginning. I am thrilled to have you all here. This is, among the things that's going to make just a huge difference in our housing crisis. I mean, not only are we providing more units for the very lowest income people in the city, but more units across the board, which, in the presentation, interestingly, that we had on the housing plan that we adopted, there's not even enough units for the very highest income bracket. And so they are then dipping into what would be available for people who make less money, which contributes to the problem, which is not something that I thought of, but, just a basic supply and demand issue. So, this is critical work. I'm glad that the Housing Authority went out and found, I guess, the premier folks in the country to do it. And I'm really impressed with, especially preparing folks to move back into that neighborhood. Obviously y'all have experience with it. That's not something that I would have considered. So I'm glad that y'all did. It's very, very thoughtful approach. Is there anything that the city can do to make it easier on y'all to meet that goal of delivering a grocery store, in terms of, some zoning change or some, requirement that y'all have to abide by that we could maybe try to deal with?
I think you hit it.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I mean, boss, I'll give you my cell phone number. I mean, I love this. I love this kind of stuff. Yeah. I mean, it's maybe the most important question we can be asking anybody who's trying to do something like this.
No, yeah, thank you. So one comment I do want to make as well about these unrestricted units is, yes, the housing challenge here in the county and in the city is much more than 50% AMI. That 50% AMI absolutely have to be provided, but it's also thinking through MUSC workers, right? When I run here in the peninsula, I'm a big runner. I always stay at the Marriott at West Edge. It's just seeing the traffic and the cost that has on households. The other important piece here with those having those unrestricted units is, frankly, those units generate profit. And then we can use the subsidy or the profit generated by those market rate units to help offset some of the losses from our affordable units. Our goal here is, right, we could have stated the Housing Authority, hey, Housing Authority, let's build 1,100 units. I need $400,000 per unit. Want to go to the city and ask for a check for $100 million, right? We all know that's not possible. And so these unrestricted units are providing and meeting a much necessary supply demand needed. They also help the overall economics from the development itself. In terms of the grocery store, we as a firm basically are involved in public-private partnerships every single one of our projects. So what I always do is think through, well, how can we problem solve that? I don't know the answers today, but once I run into a challenge of how the city might be able to play a role, whether that is zoning, whether that is marketing recruitment efforts, maybe the chamber, or maybe it's some type of way to provide some type of tenant improvement or upfit allowance to the grocery store, we will have those conversations with your city staff. We've met several times with Mayor Cogswell. I've had great meetings with him, tremendous support. Your city staff here is absolutely tremendous as well. So yes, at that point in time, when we're further along the road, I do anticipate the grocery store likely being our last phase of development for two reasons. One, we really have to get the density on the site first. We have to prove out mixed income housing can be successful here in the peninsula in order to be able to help facilitate that grocery store moving in. Further, the place on the site where we'd put the grocery store is roughly where Johnson Street will eventually come in to meet Morrison Station, roughly where the new SCDOT stoplight will be put in on Morrison Drive. But we can't start there as our first phase because that's where the majority of 4 and the 5-bedroom units are located on the site. Our build first phase, we don't have enough acreage to build 4 and 5-bedroom units first. And that's why that'll likely be our last phase. And that's likely where the grocery store will be located as well.
One comment, one question. One, I think you're exactly right in building the grocery store last because the grocery store is only going to come in when they see a market for their produce, which means they need customers that have money. And I think the mixed use is the best way to cure that problem of providing them the incentive to move in. So I think you're right on the money there. And this is kind of off the wall a little bit, but looking back at the old structures that are there, and hearing your historic connection, are any of the structures do you think perhaps worth saving to make, so there's one left that we can see what it was like that uses an office building or anything? And if it's not economically feasible, that's fine. I just thought if it is, it'd be kind of nice from that perspective.
That's not a bad idea.
Oh,
Go ahead.
sorry, my thing, oh, I'm here now. So in terms of the site, we actually are going to preserve some of the original units. So along Meeting Street, right next to our headquarter building, there is a U shape that sits between Meeting and Nassau that has a courtyard in the middle. We'll keep those as well as the block behind. So it's about 73 units, and we're gonna convert the management office into a set of units. So there will be about 75 preserved to be able to recognize that this is the place of one of the first affordable housing, public housing projects in
Beautiful,
America.
just because, I mean, looking at the picture we saw earlier, there's less and less green space in Charleston. And that's one of the treasures that's in this location. So that'll help preserve some of that. And I just think it's visually kind of thing that's nice to have too. Thank you.
Yeah, so we'll maintain the green space not only at that courtyard, but within Integral's development plan of Morrison Station as a whole, they also are including a green space area that will add a little bit more of that park and recreation type of feel.
I believe about 35% of the space will remain open space. So we're not looking to build tall buildings everywhere at all. That's not at all the intention, the purpose of what we're doing, right? In order for these residents to be successful, they need to have the opportunities to interact and come together and have those community gathering spaces, or what we like to call convening spaces.
Tom or Bonnie, do you have questions? All right, you're shaking your head no, other commissioners?
Here we go. It's,
You get to ask my question?
huh?
I don't get to ask my question before you make your comment?
Oh, please, please. I'm sorry.
You talk about shared prosperity. Can you talk a little bit more about what that means?
Absolutely. So shared prosperity is our minority and women business participation within the program itself. We typically have a target of 30% MWBE participation on the project itself. And then we're also in conversations with several of the residents. We met one of the residents who's been coming to several of the meetings. This individual braids hair. And this individual had, when I said, hey, maybe there's an opportunity for us to set aside some of the more kind of smaller commercial retail spaces, maybe there's an opportunity for some of the residents to have their own space to do their own business. And you could just see the light bulb click for this individual. So for us, it is how can we think about the impact we're delivering on the project? A lot of people think about MWBE participation on the construction side as a key piece where shared prosperity can be generated. In our opinion, that's an important piece. But what do we think about for the next 100 years in terms of having the ongoing opportunities for a lot of our own small entrepreneurs have the opportunity to participate in the development, whether they're residents themselves or whether the relationships that Kenya and Radia have been developing over time.
And my second question, the city's water plan addresses issues of flooding and the like. How are you staging your work, and under how does that plan and staging of this work impact your development concepts?
Great question. We are roughly elevation in between 3 to 5 feet. So it's, my opinion, it's extremely low, but relatively speaking, it's high here in the peninsula. We are meeting very regularly with city staff, Tim Keene and Christopher Morgan. We fully recognize we're about 75% of the way through our master plan. We put a pause on that because we recognize we're at the place now where we really need the technicians to step in. Seaman Whiteside is our civil engineer. They have tremendous experience here locally and tremendous experience working with TRC and city staff. So that is all aspects we plan on pulling into the project as well. We've also started meeting with Councilmember Waring. I believe he sits on the Public Works Commission for the city of Charleston, and he's aware of this project potential needs for that. So, I would say we are probably one of, if not the most collaborative developers that's out there. I meet all the time with other developers, right? How can we learn better? How can we work together? This project will require the city's participation, particularly on the infrastructure piece, and helping us understand what to do, helping us understand the Cooper Bridge TIF district that's there, understand where the outfall currently is from Morrison Yard residential building. How can we work with what's there today and not have to create this in a little bubble by ourselves on the side?
Yeah, I just want to say, I was going to comment especially about the goal for minority and women-owned businesses. This is really a region that is becoming known for establishing the supports that launched small business owners. We just don't have enough of the locations to help them actually establish, their first space. So that could be a match made in heaven. There's a lot of training for women and minorities in particular. And so I think, we'll have no problem establishing that kind of a facility. And then the same with the water theme. I mean, Charleston has been living under the understanding that water is something we have to make a reality. Living with water is making a reality in Charleston. And we've had expert upon expert come here and begin the planning and the improvement and the mitigation process. So you'll be able to just give them your checkbook and they'll help you spend it in the best way that is resilient for the next 100 years. Especially Newmarket Creek, that has a special grant now to get started to totally revamp Newmarket Creek that will make it fit into what it used to be, as well as protect it from flooding out its whole neighborhood.
And I would just like to add to the part about storm water improvements. The Housing Authority has an extensive history with working with the city on some of those stormwater improvements, between the stormwater reservoir that sits underneath Williams Terrace to the pump station that's getting built at Instant Homes. Wherever we can work with them to aid the stormwaters, it's incumbent upon us to do so.
So I do have one other question left one out. One of the concepts associated with enhancing public safety has to do with, physical design. So how are you thinking through public safety in your design concept? And since the whole question of having a safe community is important as having an affordable community as prosperity.
You're 100% correct there. And I would say this is the advantage we bring as companies develop 12,000 units in urban settings. We have our in-house property management team. We manage 7,000 units in Atlanta today. And so we have lots of experience of developing defensible spaces, a lot of focus on security cameras, a lot of focus on lighting, a lot of focus of how do we have active ground floor uses, how to create the right outdoor spaces to make sure people always feel safe and people are present down there. So defensible spaces, lighting, security cameras, and activating ground floors. That way it doesn't create just voids of activity or with no eyes on what's going on. Those are key pieces. We've also been starting to have conversations in relation to the Housing Authority, starting to have some conversations with the Charleston Police Department. We're actually looking to have the Charleston Police Department come out at a future meeting with the residents. We've been having conversations with the residents. Hey, would you want to have a substation on the site or not? Councilmember Seeking, when we met with him, brought up the potential of having a CPD substation on the site itself. So I don't have the exact solution of what we're going to be doing. I would say the earliest we're going to start construction is probably 2 to 2.5 years away. As Kenyon and Roddy like to talk about, we're here in our listening session. And so how do we execute the right safety plan here at this part of the Upper Peninsula is going to differ drastically different than in downtown Atlanta. But we do have best practices we've developed from doing this for 30 years, but all of it's about what exactly are the needs here locally and how do we tailor what needs to be done best here. That's through listening session, through meeting with public officials, to the police department, the residents, their feedback as well.
One thing I just like to say, and say thank you for your time and listening to us, but I'd like to let you know that in order for us to do these things, it takes a team. So I wanted to ask the group of people back here if you'd stand up and let people know what your titles are. Thank you.
I want to thank you for.
Yeah, just be quick. We've had a resident of the East Side who's very dedicated, cares a lot about the kids over there, come to city council meetings frequently, and talk about in addition to the person whose seat I'm in right now, Councilmember Mitchell, talk about how the facilities over there are just not adequate in terms of recreation opportunities to make sure kids are coming in and having something productive to do. So, they're not out just doing whatever comes to a young kid's mind. Is that something that you perceive that the city needs to get its act together on to, accommodate what's going to be an increased population over there?
Yeah, I would say we've met with Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell multiple times at his rec center there. We know the city is looking at making investment in that center. I would say we would love to have a conversation to talk about how to do that collaboratively. Love to have a conversation about how do we do this across the entire site. This project, what we call Morrison Station, is 16.9 acres of land. And the city, of course, owns the one block there, right? So it's a very large section of East Side. So how do we think about spreading that open space? How do we think about having those public amenities, those city facilities across the entire site? Going back to safety and security, if we have that across the entire site, more active uses, more people out and about, more people taking care of the community themselves. And so, yes, those would be more strategic, collaborative conversations we'd love to have with the city.
St. Julian Divine could play a large role in that, with it being, a community center, city owned on the east side. They already do a lot in terms of camps and recreation, but now with, what is to come, they would end up having a vital role in continuing to provide and maybe expanding some of those services.
I think to your point, Councilman Bowden, on the east side there, what you're talking about, I think you're talking about Mr. Edward Jones, who is a fixture down there, and especially in Martin Park. And I think the issue is there definitely is a big facility over there at St. Julian Divine, and there are people who work there. But I think maybe the disconnect is making sure that the folks that are involved at St. Julian Divine are the folks that are connected to all of the people in the community, that have the trust of the kids in the community, because those kids still run in Barton Park. And it's because the people who are over there are people that they know and that they can depend on. And just on top of that, with this entire development, I just wanted to say that I haven't heard this come up, but we talk about sustainability a lot in terms of the environment, in terms of like preserving like property, but like there's also like people sustainability and and preserving like the culture of our city and the history of our city, and in terms of the people who live here. And that community on the east side is probably one of the last holdouts of intergenerational Charlestonians on the peninsula. And so the work that y'all are putting in to make sure that those people can come back to that area and be part of that, what I know to be a really tight community, I think is a tremendous investment in our city and the culture of our city. And I just appreciate all the thought that you all are putting into this. And I'm not surprised because I see Radia here and Kenya, and I don't know how you were able to make that connection, but that was one of your very good decisions for sure.
The best decision.
So I want to respond to you regarding Mr. Edward Jones. So from the gate out of our resident engagement and our stakeholder management and engagement, we have engaged him on all levels. Not only just him per se, but also the kids from Martin Park, from Sanders Clyde, from Early College, from St. Julian Divine. So we are looking at the whole East Side. We've also attended East Side Development Corporation meetings. We've attended meetings with Burke High School, Simmons Pinckney. So it's not just that one, just little sector. We have made sure that we have involved everything, and Charleston Development Academy and Charleston Progressive. So all of those neighborhoods that play a part in this redevelopment, we have engaged them. And going back to your environmental and sustainability too, also we have been meeting with folks in the environmental realm and the people realm. So it's not just one ecosystem or one group of folks that we are engaging in this process. We want everybody to be presented at the table and have an opportunity to be at the table as we move forward in this project.
And we are actually, so from environmental perspective, right, we have to capture a lot of our stormwater on the site. We're looking to have these very large rain barrels in place essentially to capture it. But to the people perspective, it's right, how can we put murals on there? How can we capture some of that history, right? we are going to have lots of facades on the building itself. We have a project in downtown Durham that I'm also leading and located in Durham's Haytie neighborhood. Haytie neighborhood is a historic Black neighborhood that was absolutely devastated with urban renewal, with the Durham Freeway coming in. If you've been to Durham, it's right where the Durham Bulls baseball stadium is. That community is called Tribute Rising so we can celebrate the history of the Haytie neighborhood. Each of the buildings have facades. We're naming each of the buildings within that development after local historic leaders of that community as well. So how do we preserve that history? How do we celebrate it? We're very excited to get into that phase of the development.
Last thing I would like to say to you guys, last thing I'd like to say is that the existing way money flows for housing authority is changing. The public housing residents will now have vouchers, and those vouchers will be attached to the apartment. So as if you read in the news, you see there's talk about doing deadly things to vouchers, and I can just tell you that that would be terrible for the housing authority. And if you have any say-so whatsoever, please talk to someone to let them know that we want to at least keep people indoors and together.
So I want to thank you for an excellent presentation on the topics that you've touched on in terms of affordable housing and expanding housing opportunity in the city is central to the work that HARC is committed to be advisory to the city on. And we think it's important for the public to hear information that happens in boardrooms and stuff like that. And although we don't have a lot of people attending our meetings, this is public and available, and we appreciate that.
We have a solid YouTube following.
Yeah, we do. And this is a long-term project, and new partners will come and go on the city council. Partners will come and go on various boards and commissions and staff. So it's really important for you to stay connected to those agencies and for municipal government to do what it can to make certain that those connections are there. Again, thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, all right. So we can make a quick. We're still in session, guys. It's up there. I can't have it. So let's skip over the chairperson's comments and go to the manager's report first. Adrian?
Thank you, Jerry. I just have a brief manager's update. Under the HARC report and the reauthorization, we will be presenting on Tuesday at the city council meeting on May 27th. And on next week, on Thursday, on May 15th, we will be presenting to the CD, which is the Community Development Committee, on the proposed ordinance revision. Those are the highlights from the overall umbrella of HARC. Under housing and mobility, I do not yet have an update on the community needs assessment. I have been in conversations with the deputy, Rebecca Dahl, and also the director, Director Johnson. Under history and culture, we're celebrating Jewish American Heritage Month. We also have Spoleto Festival that's coming May 23rd through June 8th. I'll send you that. Attached to this document has the schedule where you can see all of the activities that are going to be held. Some are free, some do cost a fee. In economic empowerment, we know that May also celebrates Small Business Week, health and disparities and environmental justice. Of course, I sent you that email about the City of Charleston resilience and sustainability water-wise open houses that are happening in several different areas of the city. It's also Mental Health Awareness Month, and National Women Health Week is May 11th through the 17th. Do you have any questions?
So you have a number of calendar items. May into June, particularly June, is going to be chock full of significant historical, cultural observations. We have the Mother Emanuel Massacre item, then a Juneteenth celebration. I think it's important if you can provide the commissioners with dates of events that are going on around that. Stephen, I'm not sure what the administration and council, how they're planning to elevate that, but if we've ever, I mean, we came out of the creation of the Hart Commission, came out of the Mother Emanuel, the Apology for Slavery, the Special Commission creation, the Memorial Day disturbance, then our creation. And this is really, and actually, I believe the ordinance to create the Special Commission on Equity, Inclusion, and Racial Conciliation actually passed in June, looking at the footnotes for the draft. So June of 2000, so it's 5 years, 10 years since Mother Emanuel, 5 years since the Special Commission being in place. So it's really, if ever, a notion of embracing the question of racial conciliation and having those difficult conversations, if they are difficult, going beyond the mourning to action becomes important. So, and because we're not meeting until the second Thursday in June, it'd be important for us to kind of get a sense of what's going on. Other commissioners have observations about upcoming events.
Yeah, I was just gonna share that I managed to squeeze the schedule that hasn't been shared yet out of Pastor Manning for all the events that are coming up at Mother Emanuel. I want to draw everybody's attention to one in particular that I think is going to be fantastic. On the morning of June 17th, from 11 to 1 at Mother Emanuel, they're going to have an ecumenical service to memorialize those lost on those killed on June 17th in 2015. And Rabbi Jeff Myers from the Tree of Life in Pittsburgh is going to be speaking at that program. So it's bringing communities together, and they have a whole series of events going on throughout the week. And I'll forward y'all the schedule digitally.
I know another event that made way of the Charleston Forum on June 10th is convening a conversation around racial justice in the evening over at the Charleston Music Hall. So we need to, again, become aware of those events and encourage our constituents to participate. Okay.
What was that date?
June 10th, 5:30 at Music Hall. Okay. Any other questions for our manager? If not, Stephen?
I apologize, I had to leave the room. So did we already talk about what's going to happen on May 27th
That's when we're going to,
next?
I'm
Okay,
going into co-chair's comments and
okay,
let
okay.
let
That's fine.
Stephen
I
lead
didn't
that
wanna miss
conversation for
Thank
us.
you.
All right, so as Adrian said, the ordinance, the proposed ordinance will go in front of the Community Development Committee on the 15th. Okay. I've I heard 10 different dates before we
15th
finally
of
settled on
May.
that. So, so yeah, so next Thursday. So, I think what that means is, typically how things work their way through council. If you want to make changes, it's probably going to be done at the committee level. If it's, reported out favorably, generally other council members will watch that, meeting, knowing, especially if something like this is coming up, that they may want to be, have seen the full conversation on, and will generally, go along with the folks who, really dug into it at the committee level. So I think that is probably, the most important opportunity to make sure that we get this right, that it reflects, the work that we want to be doing, the work that the city needs us to be doing, and is something that will pass city council. 'Cause if it doesn't get 7 votes, we're not going to be doing any good work at all. And so I think we should talk about the language today, and just, go over whether, we feel like any changes need to be made on what gets proposed to the Community Development Committee. I generally think the ordinance revision was good. So thank you, Adrian, for working on that, as well as our legal staff. I think worked on that as well. So thanks for giving us something on paper that we can talk about, because pulling ideas out of the ether is generally not the easiest thing to do. There was something specific I wanted to mention, and I did not write it down.
So what's the process for getting it right at this point? What is?
So
Well, I mean, it's, that's subjective for sure. But, it's just, I think it just needs to reflect what we think it should reflect, right? I mean, we're the ones who have been here and have been living this. We're in a much different world than we were when this was created in 2001 or 2021. Or 22, I guess. So
February of 2022.
Yeah. Some of the things that applied back then maybe don't make as much sense now. We're not referring to the Special Commission's report, certainly as much as we were at the beginning. We made a decision on the State Human Affairs Commission. There's just some language in there that it's a little, presumptuous in my opinion. Like we're, going to go out and educate everybody, and, get them to think right. I just don't, I don't know that sort of idea makes a whole lot of sense, in hindsight. So, just sort of cleaning things up and making sure that it accurately reflects what we agree, is the most productive way forward. Because I don't think anybody wants to come here and just sit at a meeting. I also don't think we want to wait for city council to refer us something, right? Or the mayor to refer us something, although if they want to, we would certainly welcome that. I just think that we need to, kind of define our own role as much as possible, and how, we want to proceed and make the biggest impact.
Okay, sorry, I thought that we were asked to submit our specific, edits and comments to the memo and the new draft ordinance changes, amended, whatever you're gonna call it, but this past Friday. And so then I thought you and Jerry and Adrian were gonna review our comments and come in with another documents, set of documents that we could give our approval to.
Sure. So the problem with that approach is that these meetings are subject to FOIA. And so, having a conversation over email about city business that is, not noticed is problematic. So like, I don't weigh in on those sort of things.
Right.
Not that it's not attached to necessarily.
So if I could, Carol.
Okay, sure.
What I'm proposing, because I did receive a set of comments and from Carol, and I've had some comments, some thoughts. And what I'd like to do is walk through just the sections and see if there's any specific language that folks are concerned about. And then between now and next Thursday, Steve, I mean, the way it appears this has been working, all right? The administration, and I'm including Adrian in this, we've been working with legal counsel to come up with incorporating some of the ideas that she's heard us talk about into the document. But in essence, the document will go from, it's not coming from us to the committee, it's coming from the administration to the committee. So we have an opportunity now to say, make these suggestions, and then if they get into the, revised ordinance and submit it to the committee, that's fine. If not, we can address them raise them at the meeting on the 15th. That's how I see that dynamic going. So I'd like now just to walk through, section by section and see if there are comments that folks want to make. Beginning,
I'm sorry, what time is the meeting? Is it in person then? Are we gonna be there in person?
I don't know what time.
Yes, it's at 3 o'clock. I'm not sure if it's in person or virtual, but I'll definitely find out.
So I think we definitely should make, we have communication with Chairman Mitchell regarding it. I mean, I believe the agendas for the Community Development Committee does include public section, public comment. So if there are folks who want to make public comment, that's fine. I'm not quite sure what they're expecting in terms of the commission presenting, whether or not time will be allocated specifically for us to comment.
I'll call Chairman Mitchell and see if we can't make sure that we have the opportunity to
Okay.
talk there.
All right, so I want to make sure that we have the opportunity to voice our comments and not be seen as outside the process, okay? So, first section 2-206, establishment. The proposed ordinance now refers to the commission as the City of Charleston Human Affairs Commission, HAC.
Yes.
Any comments?
It's appropriate.
So, advisory committee if we put the advisory committee for human affairs, it changes it from I'm just saying, I mean, does it matter? I mean, the question of the removal of the racial conciliation is not, in my opinion, insignificant in this time that we're in.
You're saying it's not insignificant that we're dropping it.
The fact that the proposal takes it out is not insignificant.
I agree. I didn't think we were allowed to make a change to that, so I didn't.
Are there any suggestions?
I'll speak loud enough so there's another microphone. I would just say that I think I know where this is coming from, and in conversation certainly with my appointing city council member, he spoke to me about this, and his perspective was just to share, since I'm kind of obligated, I guess, to share. His perspective was that racial conciliation implies an existing like conflict in its name, and that the focus of the commission seems to be broader than just racial conciliation. And because of everything happening nationally and in the political realm right now, he thought that it would help us secure the votes that we need to be reauthorized if it was called the Human Affairs Commission, I believe is what he shared with me. Just to share where that's coming from. I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other, as long as the work continues. But
Ain't been as important as the action. But I agree with that.
Yeah, I think, what we're doing is the important thing, and we need to keep doing what we're doing, and I think I agree with you, Bob. The name is less important than us continuing to do things that are needed to be done in the community.
I mean, I don't see why we should change the name, but
before we move on, I want to acknowledge that I am not somebody that faces racial discrimination in this city, and so I would really feel I would feel better knowing, hearing from everybody on the council, or on the commission about what their opinion is on this and whether it works. I want to deprioritize my opinion on this change.
So, since I think I'm the only African descended person representing the room, the notion that in this moment we're talking about race, equity, discrimination, desegregation, or any of that kind of stuff, is attempted to be criminalized by removing the name at this point. We would be co-signing on that, in my opinion. To the extent that the recommending action to the city council that it co-sign on a culture war kind of consideration, and that there are economic, and health and other matters that have to be reconciled. There are historical issues that are still unconciliated, and conciliation it just simply means coming to an agreement about something small. It's not like changing the whole world. And so I think the change would be, and in this moment, all right, would be a signal to the world that the city is in agreement with the notion, the attack, in my opinion, attempting to turn the clock back, eliminating civil rights enforcements in departments and agencies, defunding stuff. So it's more than just a simple word in the context of the work that we're doing. All right, but because people are going to read what the headline is, it would be, in my opinion, a statement. And I think the committee, the standing committee needs to hear that. I mean, that is a comment that I would make to the committee. Council can make the decision how they wish to vote on that, but I think that's an important reality. Just like language in the ordinance that speaks to no cash reparations and CRT come out of another kind of culture war kind of consideration that's in there. I think we need to point that out and come to grips with where are we now and where do we want to go. I would point out also to members of the commission, I think yesterday or day before yesterday, the Pew Research Center
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to
generated
look at that.
an analysis of their research on attitudes toward race and what has changed or not changed over the past 5 years. And it's an interesting kind of context of what they perceive or their research says about that. And I think it is part of the context that we should be thinking about, because there are political realities, being able to count to 7 in the city council, right, to get an ordinance passed is one piece of reality, but it's also the message that is sent in that regard. So that's I have a responsibility as the chair of the group to make an effort to make sure that our work can continue, all right, but at what cost, all right, is special. So my comment, let's move on to,
Hello,
I'm sorry, Tom.
I've had my hand up, but I don't
Come
know.
off mute, buddy.
You're on mute.
I don't think you
The- The first thing I did,
We can't
When
hear
this
you.
ca- can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Trust me, he does.
The first thing I did,
We can't
What's
hear
the
you,
lo-
my friend.
I don't know, I have my microphone on. I think Bonnie and we've
Don,
had,
you might need to turn the mic volume up on your computer or in the settings on Zoom. Or-
I can actually hear
Which
Tom
one?
just fine from here,
We
so.
actually can't hear Bonnie either.
So it's all right.
yeah,
I want to try
Oh,
something.
it's getting louder.
I want to try something because I can't hear them on my laptop. So
Okay.
maybe if I put the
All right, volume up all the way. Y'all can hear them. Give me 1 second.
How about now? Can you hear me?
Working on it.
We're still working on it.
Okay.
There we go.
All right, great,
back.
T.
All right. So the first thing I did when this came out was to look up what is racial conciliation. I mean, what exactly is that if people are having a problem with it? So it aims to heal and restore relationships between different racial groups by addressing historical injustices and promoting understanding. It involves acknowledging past wrongs, seeking justice, and fostering a future where all races, so not only white, black, obviously, with the immigrant situation throughout South Carolina. I mean, you could extend this. So where all races can coexist peacefully and equitably. And I have a real problem. I just don't think that's controversial.
I see Bonnie shaking her head.
Thank you. Thank you
Amen.
for listening.
Thank you. Appreciate
I-
the comment.
I'm just agreeing with Tom, shaking my head.
All right.
Is there a formal process for determining whether we have consensus on this and whether or not, how we may go about making recommendations?
Mike's, please. Mike. Not on.
I can't hear.
So the question is whether or not we should take some specific action as a body, as opposed to just taking individual comments.
Well, just, obviously, we're going through this, so we're in some way co-signing like a draft of this, or formally recommending or signing our approval onto a draft. And I think there should be some way that we're clear about what we as a group think, because I'm sharing what my city councilman said to me. I really also think that to some extent, like, I have less of a vote in this topic of conversation, and I would also want to, and I also, somebody that wasn't here from the beginning, I really, maybe the decision or the conversation shouldn't be limited to here, or maybe I don't know. What are our options, I guess, is what I'm.
So one option is go ahead.
Oh, well, no, go ahead. Finish that. That's something else.
Yeah, I think one option if we, if there's a motion to suggest that, having reviewed it, we disagree with the removal of the name, that we simply say that's something that we voted on as a group. If there are other things that are just talked about, right, that we may want in the conversation while council makes this decision, but if there's something that we agree on that should be changed, we can indicate, and let's do it section by section. So if there's a motion as relates to section 2-206 establishment.
I'll make the motion that as a body, we submit our statement to the council community development committee, hoping they will put it forward to the full council, that as a body, we disagree with the removal of the words racial conciliation in our title.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Discussion.
Yes, please.
Stephen?
So I just understand your perspective, certainly, and it's fair. But I just wanted to push back on it a little bit, because it's not as if we're changing the name and our purposes. As a matter of fact, we laid out very clearly in the ordinance, what we're doing. We could very easily have, the best name ever, something catchier than Hark, and, got the ordinance, substantively. And then, we're sending a signal, in some ways, but then, we're not following through on anything. I think back to what I think probably a lot of people in the community think. you know, we all held hands on, and, you know, on the bridge, after the Mother Emanuel shooting, and these disparities exist still. And, you know, that was maybe the beginning of some concerted effort, but certainly things have accelerated since then. And, you know, I hope that, you know, the equity portion of the city plan, the equity portion of the water plan are all examples of how, you know, even though, you know, we may still be recognizing the need for conciliation, there have actually been positive steps. And, you know, just for me, I think, you know, it's less important for me to stand up to the, you know, the powers that be or the winds of political change than it is to just be about making positive impact. And that's, you know, that's just where I come down on it. Like, I mean, like I said, I mean, if we're, you know, if ultimately, you know, this body is disbanded, and that happens because we choose to, you know, stand on, principle, then fine. I mean, that's, you know, it is what it is. But I, you know, think it's important to, you know, to weigh the substantive aspects of the ordinance with, you know, an idea that really only came about because somebody initially said racial reconciliation, and Mayor Tecklenburg said, well, we've never really conciled in the first place. So we just made it racial conciliation, even though I don't ever recall that it's a good definition, but I don't ever recall that definition being part of, you know, part of our original thinking.
So I hear, there's a motion on the floor. Other comments, and let's go to the body. I'm gonna try and move through. So I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Sorry. Yeah. So
the motion is to reinstate or not to remove racial conciliation from the name of the commission.
So if you are
If
voting,
you vote aye, all right, you're voting to keep the name as currently constituted. Okay, all those in favor, please give me a sign. 2. Those opposed?
You're not voting?
I'm sorry, I didn't count.
I'm confused.
What about yourself?
I was looking in the room. Okay, all those in favor again, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those opposed? 2. All right, motion carries. Abstention? All right, I had to get his abstention. Okay.
I'm just saying, I don't think we should change the names, but it's not a bill die.
I mean, so that's our comment, the perspective of the council members on how to count to 7. They're gonna vote, but at least we're on record. Okay, section 2-207. Any proposed changes there? That has to do with the purpose, and Carol, you had the suggestion of inserting a term, I believe?
Not in that section.
No? Okay.
I have a comment on subsection G.
Okay, I'm just going, any comments on A? Okay. B, was that Carol? I mean, Bonnie?
G is in George.
D as in do, okay.
wait, did you say B?
G as in George.
Okay.
G as in George, okay. Go ahead, Bob.
Stephen, did you have a comment on something before G?
Yeah, C. The language was a bit confusing there. So I would reword it to read, nothing in this division authorizes HAC to enact, implement, or mandate any laws, policies, or procedures. That being, I guess, subsection 1 and subsection 2 being mandate legal opinions. But I know, I think there was some thought that maybe we wanted to take out.
So you're suggesting we take out, we recommend that mandate legal opinions come out?
I mean, I personally would leave it in, just separate it into a different subsection so it reads cleaner. The sentence was confusing.
Yeah. I had some difficulty with mandate legal opinions.
I mean.
What does that mean?
we've
I mean, we don't
attempted
never
that.
mandate, at best, this mean we can't ask for?
No, I
Mandate
think,
an opinion.
To do it ourselves.
like, we don't have the,
Nothing in this division authorizes us to do it ourselves. We
well,
can't mandate a legal opinion. We can't mandate policies or procedures.
As an advisory body, by
Right.
definition.
that's right. I mean, of course, we can request.
Yes, but that's not what this is speaking to.
Right.
Also, English major here. If we could remove the comma
Yes,
that is right after mandate.
any laws, mandate any laws.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a straight, yeah, it ended up getting, and mandate
Or
legal
take out
opinions
the
was there
second
sort of in the
mandate.
middle.
Mandate any laws, comma, legal opinions, policies, or procedures. Just take out the other mandate. Because that first mandate handles the string of
Right, so,
nouns.
is there any disagreement, the suggestion you're taking out that second mandate, recommending that as a language cleanup? Or you want to have a completely different language?
Oh, no, I mean, I'm fine if it's just cleaned up.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
it was,
So can we by consensus then indicate that the correction to C takes out mandate in front of opinions? Right?
Yes.
Okay.
well, no, I mean, I still, I think it should just be moved to a different subsection, because I mean, I don't think we want to give ourselves the power to mandate legal
No,
opinions.
it's taking it away. It's realizing we don't have that power. Nothing in this division authorizes us. We're not authorized to do any of these. string of
I see,
things.
mandate is just written
Mandate
twice.
is,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. Yeah, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
just take out mandate, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, just clean it up, so, okay.
Okay.
Recognizing that we never had the authority as advised by the mandate anything anyhow.
Right.
Right.
Okay. Section 202-207G,
Yeah, sorry, that you were gonna.
Bonnie?
Yep. So I understand the history of this section, which says HARC is not a blueprint to implement all the recommendations in the special commission report, nor will it advocate to defund the police, provide cash reparations, teach critical race theory, or advocate to violate the South Carolina Heritage Act. So I get the history. At the same time, I think we should be able to talk about what we want to talk about, and I'm not sure that the government should be telling us we can't even talk about those things. So I would recommend we take out everything after report, just say special commission report, period, and remove all of that. It's probably a First Amendment violation.
I agree. I
Well,
like that.
We're the government. It's not preventing you from saying it, it's preventing the commission from taking it up. So I hear you. I disagree. It's a First Amendment violation, but,
Does that feel like a complete list of things that we shouldn't take up? Like,
No, those
isn't it
are
a
the
little silly
weaponized-
to list individual things? of-
Those were the weaponized terms
Right.
during the special commission report review.
that's the compromise, that section.
Isn't there a broader way to say all of that?
We'll check about weaponized terms and not use them. How's that?
So, Bonnie, are you making a motion to end 2-207G after the word report? Delete
I
it.
am. So moved.
So is there a second to that motion?
Yes, I second. that.
Seconded
I
by
ask a
Carol.
question about, or is there discussion after this?
Yeah, this discussion.
Okay. Can I ask, this language is already in the city code?
Yeah,
You didn't read that before you joined this commission?
It's just surprising to me. It's just, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but it's surprising to me that somebody would take the time to list like a couple of things that came up at a city council meeting
Well,
3 years ago or whatever.
No, it was.
Those were the
specific
hot
lang-
button
There was
words.
specific language in the report.
Right.
That was objectionable to portions of the community. And members of council, indicated in order to vote for this, they wanted this language in. I think, having witnessed the behavior of this body, okay, perhaps council could be convinced, right, that having these other words
Yes,
in here,
it's-
because we can't violate the South Carolina Heritage Act anyway.
Right.
Right,
It's
we
all
can't,
just-
we're
I
not,
mean, it-
so,
Mention that this is superfluous.
Yeah.
It's already addressed elsewhere.
Yeah, I like that.
okay. On the motion
Not to mention it can be
to
inflammatory. to
amend,
something.
G, ending with a period after the word report. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye or raising their hand.
Aye.
Aye.
1, 2, 3. You abstain? 3?
What are
Okay,
you doing? You're not voting?
I'm not voting.
Why?
I'm the chair. I mean, 3-3, now I can vote. I'm voting in favor of deleting. Because it's a tie.
I didn't know that's the way you've been conducting yourself for the last,
Yeah.
Fair enough.
you've never voted?
Look at all we did
If
now.
I'm in the chair, no.
I didn't vote there, so I guess it'll be an abstain, but I would delete the whole section if it were me. I mean, we don't really talk about the special commission report anymore. Not, maybe that's not right of us. I don't know, but I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, we've sort of settled on,
Okay, so the chair will move that we had a 3-3 tie. The chair will accept the motion to delete
Eliminate G.
section G per comment if there is such a motion.
so moved.
Moved by Stephen that we remove section G. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Carol. On the motion, all those in favor of removing section G, please indicate by raising your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those opposed?
So awkwardly.
Those abstaining? Right, 3 abstentions.
I think just tell Peter wrote
Yeah,
it.
y'all lost anyway. Okay, cool. Thank you. 2-208. Any recommendations for language changes? This, section A, there is a note in a footnote on this one referring to the city master plan on the resilience and equity. No, there's not.
Hey, well, you did the parentheses, recommended framework emphasizing city master. And I strongly agree with it in my edited comments.
Whoever's speaking right now, can you use a microphone?
Yes, do you have the copy in front of you that Adrian sent us? So Adrian said she inserted the, in parentheses, recommended framework emphasized in the city master plan under the resilience and equity chapter. And then I made my own parenthetical comment upon that, on top of that, that I agreed strongly with the reference to the city comp plan and that section of the document, resilience and equity.
So I had thought through a suggestion on how to incorporate the parentheses into the actual language. 2-208A revised to read, provide recommendations to the mayor and city council on the implementation of the racial equity framework in the city of Charleston 10-year master plan adopted 2021 that will serve as a tool and process to analyze, influence, and improve internal decision-making in a way that supports equity within the city and organizations, in the city as an organization and through its services. In essence, what I just did was drop in the reference to the master plan.
Sounds good.
In that sense.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, motion to adopt that proposed language for section 2-208A. Moved,
Second.
moved and seconded. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand or saying aye. Okay, that recommendation passes. Okay, going through further, any comments on B?
I just wanted to note, it says racial conciliation here. I don't know if that was intentional to leave that in there, but considering that it's being struck everywhere else.
Well, so is equity and inclusion in there, so I think
Fair
we
enough.
should leave.
Yeah. I think part of the notion
Good.
here is the name change, to Stephen's point, the substance still is here.
Fair enough.
In that part. Section C, education, and outreach.
No.
Section D, I believe, Stephen, you got observations of D and F.
They look struck. Are we?
To educate the community.
D and F. D and F are deleted. It's the community education, which we don't have resources for.
Okay. If there's no comment on D, any comment on E? Any comment on F?
Just take a step back. Is there a way, instead of say to educate, could we change the language just to say that one of our goals is to facilitate that kind of respectful and meaningful conversation between community members? Promote?
So you're on C? Was that going back to C?
D.
E.
D.
D.
Yeah. Or civil discourse, or I don't know. I think that's something that we actively do is promote. Promote civil discourse. Maybe we're not educating the community, but
Provide active assistance and the facilitation
to provide
of respectful and meaningful conversation. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I is there another section where we spell out that that one of our goals is to help facilitate like civil discourse between, I don't know, discordant groups or
No.
So
Resolve.
why don't we then just change, is it D that we're talking about?
D.
Delta, facilitate, say what you just said, facilitate discourse or?
Civil discourse.
Promote civil discourse. Promote. You know what? I don't have a good way to say it off the top of my head.
Well, this may address it. I think between C and G, it gives us the ability to go out and talk to, groups, organizations, what have you, to, do what we feel like needs to be done. And then G gives, I guess, city council and the mayor the ability to direct us to do those things. Not exactly in the same language, but that's kind of how I read them together, is that, it could come from either. So with the example of the Palestine protesters, the city council said, hey, why don't you go talk to Hark? Like, you'll get more of an opportunity to be heard and discuss, than, we could do it at a council meeting. And that's what happened. And it, I think, diffused things a bit. I think we could do the same thing with like the protest ordinance, that Post and Greater wrote about today. So, I think together those two accomplish that goal, without us needing to necessarily workshop the language.
Point withdrawn.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, as a matter of practicality, we really can't do that
Okay,
more than we already do.
So what are we agreeing to?
we're gonna delete D and F.
I'm sorry, say again, Carolyn.
I think we're going to delete D and F.
Delete D and F as proposed here. We concur, so there's no
Right,
action
we're not
recommended
making
other
any
than
changes.
going right, okay. Our assumption is, if we don't say anything, we're going along with it.
Right.
Okay, G?
Well,
Enthusiastic.
there's bad language. I think city needed resources and support the city's Office of Human Affairs office. That,
Office of Human Affairs, they just,
take off the
Okay.
second off.
yeah, mhm,
okay. In capitalized office, I guess.
okay.
Yeah. Is that what you do all day?
They said this was a draft.
Excellent.
Okay, G?
Disillusioned.
I will comment that in our earlier discussions 8 months ago, the notion of having language that says at the direction of the mayor and council to meet, as opposed to meet without the direction. For example, this evening, our invitation to organizations did not come at the direction of the
Right,
mayor.
yeah,
mayor and
I think
council.
it's, as Stephen described, it's sort of, it can come from either way, either direction. We're providing educational and outreach support to established programs and organizations in the community. By inviting them to explain themselves to HARC, the public is more aware. We get a chance to vet or,
So
flush
what
out their contributions
Yeah.
and. make
So my
them-
suggestion is that we take out at the direction of the mayor and council. Just go with meet. Start the sentence with G would meet and collaborate with community partners, da, 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 da.
Sounds good.
I think that's what subsection C already sort of does. So I think that's why I was saying, I think together between C and G, we can do it ourselves, or
Okay,
we can take up
okay,
what the,
okay, I got you. I
not,
got you.
not that if they send it to us, we would tell them no, if even
Yeah,
if that
yeah, yeah.
section wasn't
Okay,
there,
got you,
but.
got you. That makes it unnecessary. I got you.
Why, can I ask a question about G? Why are there like broad, like inclusive terms like business organizations and then
Right.
individual organizations listed after that?
Yeah, I think we should take out the individual organization.
And maybe add nonprofit organizations or charitable organizations or something like that? I don't know. I understand why Charleston Regional Development Alliance is there. I guess. But couldn't that
I
be
mean,
covered
it's a
under
business
a
organization.
category?
We could also just put like, for example.
I think that's more appropriate.
Okay.
All right, so,
Are there a lot of examples in the code?
No, not that I know.
so,
God, I'm not a-
so
I don't think
we're slightly over time, so,
We're-
is there consensus to insert, for example, after Chamber of Commerce, Chambers of Commerce, and the head of Charleston Regional Development is, say, for example. Right, okay, H,
It's gone.
that's gone, I, J, K. And then on to 2-209 organization membership. I can indicate that in our conversation with Mayor Coswell and the staff last week, he raised some question about the size of the group. The 13 number, he suggested that it should be lower, but he didn't have specificity. And there's been conversation amongst folks in terms of how much definition or and what categories. I know from our earlier discussion, we were also concerned about, and I think Adrian appropriately picked up the notion of having 2 council members gives us a shot to make sure we have at least one at one at the meeting and an opportunity to have 2 lanes if we need to get information onto the council agenda and the like, and to understand what is going on, and probably the likelihood that the 2 council members would be sitting on 2 different committees. That would give us, again, more reach. So that's the notion, and we've never been able to get 3. members from city council either, so in terms of, so the question of total number, and city council people, are two of the issues and then the categories. Any recommendations?
I had one other issue, and that is something that I brought up a while back when the same topic came up, and that's about college students. And this, I'm looking at the memo, which is what I printed out instead of the whole thing. So we're talking about all the expertise and training and background and experience we're expecting the people who are serving on this commission. And then, oh, by the way, let's get two people who might not even be residents of the city of Charleston, but they happen to be college students who are by definition of training and still developing their expertise in life. And we can give them full votes on this commission, and I just don't think it's appropriate. And if they want to be as non-voting members, or we want to reach out to the youthful community in some fashion, maybe make them interns for the commission. But I think it's hard to ask for people to serve on a commission and demand that they have a lot of expertise.
Bob, do you have your microphone on?
It keeps it actually came back.
Okay.
Okay. I just think it's hard to expect people to serve on this commission and demand a lot of experience, expertise, and knowledge. And then, oh, by the way, give two votes, equal votes on the commission to people that have the very opposite of that are still in training and still learning just because they happen to be in college and might not even be from the city of Charleston or the Charleston area. So I think we need to look at the role, if we're going to have college students participating here, exactly how, because I think that needs to be limited.
Stephen?
I think young folks provide diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think they provide a perspective that we're not getting most of the time. That, frankly, city government isn't getting most of the time. I mean, I'm the youngest person on city council, and I don't have a thing in common with a college student. I think it's valuable. One of our specific areas of focus is youth. And it was actually taken out of the ordinance because we intended to include young people who would bring that perspective on their own if we're forgetting it. So I think, I'm
all for city youth, college students, just because they're college students. I
Believe it
disagree.
or not, there are actually college students who are residents of the city of Charleston.
There are
attending-
some, but I think it needs to
attending
be
schools.
defined.
So probably like 20,000 of them. It also includes postgraduate or graduate students. So, I mean, we could get a law school student or a, master's student as well. But
So can I ask this question? Can we agree on the two city council members? I'm trying to get to a number, all right? The two city council members, two youth, all right? With the screening, the definition of who's eligible, high school, college, graduate student, all right, is okay. So that's 4, all right? That's 4 people, all right? Now, do we want to add 9 additional folks? Or by virtue of, geography, expertise, sector representation?
As I wrote to you in my edits, Jerry, I'm more concerned or dedicated to making sure that the members at large, if they're not going to be specifically appointed by a city council member for that, like diverse reason coming from all over the city, and we're making them demonstrate their expertise. And I wrote community involvement in one or more of the following areas. So I feel strongly that we should not give up the areas of expertise and involvement that represent the disparities topics for which this commission was founded to be actively focused on. So, I think one of our, so I rewrote that section in terms of, I don't know how we're going to find somebody that is a specialist that would volunteer to be on HARC. If they're a specialist in, business or housing or health whatever, they're gonna volunteer for a commission that works on those things. That would be my expectation. And finding people that will, you know, I think community involvement in an area that we're concerned about be maintained as a priority of our city is important. So
Can you-
I
can you
rewrote
read-
it
can
to
you
give,
Read your language and propose that as an amendment?
yes. Okay. So of the 6 members that are supposed to be specialized, I wrote 6 members will each demonstrate expertise and community involvement in one or more of the following areas: health administration, environment, climate resilience, policing, criminal justice, economic empowerment, entrepreneurialism, housing and mobility, and youth development. So I took out nonprofit, I took out public service, I took out, I mean, those are the 2 that I don't think are logical in terms of our original calling for why we're established. And I don't see how somebody who literally has an expertise in public service wouldn't have a conflict of interest serving on an appointed commission. So, and I do feel strongly that we should have housing and mobility and climate resilience, which is a major thrust of the master plan, as well as the city's future in terms of how we're going to be problem solving and trying to live in the rising condition of, you know, water, that we've spent a lot of money as taxpayers supporting and studying. So those are my expertise categories. And then these 3 members, I don't understand how they are differentiated. So I rewrote that section of 3 members who represent community leadership as exemplified by community-wide organizations such as CAJM and NAACP. So that's my changes to the expertise involvement sections.
Is there a motion to adopt or recommend that language? Or changes to that language? Or are we comfortable leaving the language as recommended?
I'd move to adopt it as recommended.
As recommended?
Mhm.
As in the original draft?
Yes.
Okay.
You mean what's on the paper?
Yeah.
Does it specify anywhere in this revised ordinance how who's choosing these people, how they're being
No,
appointed?
there's no mention of how they're going to be appointed.
Who's appointing them? That seems problematic.
I mean, it'll probably be the same process as most other bodies that serve like we do. The notice will go out, there's vacancies on a particular body, and then they accept applications for a particular time. They close the applications and then they review who submitted their applications and they pick.
Who?
The mayor's office.
Okay.
And then the mayor makes his single nominee, you know, let's say there's 3 seats available because the terms, you know, rotate. 2 people want to stand for a second term, so they're nominated for reappointment. And then there's a vacancy and there'll be 1 person nominated for an appointment. And then the council's expected to vote. And I mean, I've only been part of 2 discussions where nominees were disputed and deferred and then substituted in a different person. But normally it's pretty much of a one-way nomination process.
Okay. Thank you.
So the other related most idea that's not on here, we don't have a staggered situation. Everybody comes on at the same time. Everybody goes off at the same time. So I would recommend that the appointments coming forward be staggered 1, 2, and 3 years, right? And then folks serving for 2 year, 2-year terms after that. So we have a stagger. So without having specific language, can we have consensus that we're going to suggest a staggered term situation, so you don't have everybody going off at the same time.
Is that how it works on the other boards or commissions or?
Yeah, most of them are on some rotation.
Yeah, and the real problem is that if either the politics change, okay, or people, there's a lack of continuity, right? And so your comment earlier about, not having a history, not being on and not feeling comfortable being fully, vetted, or fully engaged or eligible to vote or comment on stuff, gets helped by having a staggered term. And then some of us who need to get off anyhow, can, if we get reappointed, will be in the first 1 year class and be able to help and just move on to populate it with more bodies later.
I just wanted to add that in consideration of our staff, I think we should probably wrap it up.
Yeah, you know, so
There's a motion on the table, right?
it wasn't second. There wasn't a second for it.
For my,
Yeah.
no, the
Carol-
motion was to accept the existing language. I thought somebody
So
seconded.
Carol. made-
No. We don't need, if we're gonna keep the existing language, we don't need a motion. I think we decided we would.
I had asked Carol to read hers to see if there was some churn there.
Right.
And it seems to be, folks all seem all right with the language as is, so not. And we'll, by consensus, we'll add,
Are we really fine with keeping housing off? That makes no sense to me. We've studied housing all 3 years, but
I think that's a good comment that we can make. And lobby to get it in. Okay. Other changes on any of the other sections? I just raised the question, that, there's an indication that the minutes will be provided by, be written, provide and filed with the clerk. It's not clear who's doing that. There's a presumption will be our staff.
I nominate Otter AI to do it.
Okay. Other than that, I had anything else. And I appreciate you guys working through this. Stephen and I will go through the discussion, read through this, the tape, and make sure that we represent stuff. We encourage you to come to the meeting, on the 15th. All right, and we'll ask for opportunity to say something if you want to. All right. Motion to adjourn, so ordered, we're done, sorry. Thank you,
So, Jerry,
yeah.
even though we're not still in a official meeting here,